Welcome to Cadwell Park, set in the beautiful Lincolnshire countryside, and you join us for the Mazda MX-5 Championship A races. Now, Lindsay, Will Blackwell-Chambers, twice champion, he's starting on pole position, but he's not had it all his own way this season.
No, he hasn't. He's coming into this weekend knowing fine well he has to walk away with 3 wins to be able to have a chance to claw back up that championship table, because currently he's sat at 7th.
It's going to be exciting to watch. It's over to Andy McEwen to take you through all of the action.
Yeah, thanks guys. Well, expecting even more twists and turns in the story this weekend at Cadwell Park. It's perhaps no surprise though to see Will Blackwell-Chambers and John Langridge making up the front row, with Brian Trott and Joe Wiggin next up. Will Hayden's qualified well in 5th ahead of Ben Short. Then Lewis Cannon likewise has Oliver Allwood for company on row 4. Martin Tolley and Steve Fohn round out the top 10 ahead of Matt Luff and Ben Hansing. Matt Pollard and Jason Greatrex are next. Then Jack Brewer and Dave Turton, with Adam Craig, David Waters, Marcus Bailey and Ivan Leary rounding out the top 20 on this 26-car grid. So race 1A about to get underway. We've had 4 different winners already this season, and 7 different drivers have stood on the podium in the first 6A races. Are we about to add to that tally? There are plenty of candidates towards the sharp end of the grid looking for their first podiums of the season. Lights out then, racing underway at Cadwell Park, and Will Blackwell-Chambers will seize the early advantage from pole position down towards the first corner. 3 abreast racing further back there between Lewis Cannon, Ben Short and Brian Trott, and they make contact already. Drama down towards the first corner, and that looked like that was Lewis Cannon and Ben Short who have got held up. Cannon's in the barriers. Short has rejoined, but outside of the top 10, so that is a real drama there for Ben Short, the championship leader on outright points arriving here at Cadwell Park. Lewis Cannon, unfortunately though, is out of the race, having missed the races at Pembrey last time out. Lewis Cannon is already in big trouble here at Cadwell Park and looks set to lose even more points. That's a real shame, but drama for Ben Short, who could have really done without that issue here at the start of the race. At least he's got the rest of the 20 minutes to try and pick his way back through the pack. The rest of the pack stream then through Park Corner onto the never-ending right-hander at Chris Curve. And already sparks starting to fly. Ben Short, the championship leader coming into this round on outright scores. Once you take drop scores into the equation though, he is actually joint second with Will Blackwell-Chambers. John Langridge has the points lead on drop scores, but it's all very tight indeed, and we'll get into that in more detail once the race, or indeed if the race, calms down. There's Brian Trott now. Out of the 3 that made contact there into the first corner, he's come out of that one best because he's still there up at the front. He's in 3rd position just behind John Langridge and Will Blackwell-Chambers in front of him. Brian Trott is 4th in the championship on drop scores. Having missed the 3 races at Pembrey though, he cannot afford another bad result because he's used up his 3 drop scores that you're allowed throughout the season. From now on, every race will count for him, so it's pressure on. Joe Wiggin is there in 4th position. Will Hayden, I think that is in 5th. There's Ben Hansey, the white and green car, 2nd in the next queue. And there, number 71 on the inside, the white and red car, the BS Motorsport car of Ben Short, is just outside the top 10. So there is still a good chance here for him to score some decent points, but obviously not the sort of result that he was hoping for. Yellow flag still waving at the first corner. That's because of Lewis Cannon's stricken car, which does not look that easy for the marshals to get to. So it may well require a safety car period to cover that recovery, or they might decide to leave it there because it is an unlikely place for another car to go off. Ollie Allwood is going well. As a result, finds himself inside the top half dozen in the championship arriving in this race. So this is another slightly off-character race for him. Oh, Scott Leach there, very sideways over the grass on the exit of the final turn. Or past the pit lane, across the start-finish line, and down into the very quick left-hand corner, the first corner of the lap, which is almost, if not completely flat out in these lightweight and good handling Mark 1 MX-5s. There, Ollie Allwood, number 63, turns through, having cleared that little knot of traffic. He'll set off after the next group. Number 91 is Tom Smith, who's had a race win this year, albeit in the first of our B races at Brands Hatch. Oh, hand out of the cockpit there for Seb Fisher was that. Is there a car off at the top of the hill? There are yellow flags being shown, and the safety car is coming out. So the safety car, for reasons unknown, is being scrambled, so somebody is off in a potentially dangerous position. We haven't seen anybody falling by the wayside. There is confirmation that the yellow flags are out, and so Will Blackwell-Chambers, who was enjoying a 1 second or so advantage over Brian Trott in 2nd place and John Langridge in 3rd, well, that is now going to disappear entirely, unfortunately. Now, is that the reason? There's a rectisel barrier. Yeah, someone's been off on the run into the hairpin, haven't they? and has dislodged the rector barriers. Now, whether or not there is a car still there, I don't know. What I can tell you, though, is that Jason Greatrex has gone missing. We know that we lost Lewis Cannon on the opening lap, but I think Jason Greatrex might be the culprit here. In which case, we'll be able to tell, because he was, yeah, he's not there, is he? He should have been towards the back of that queue of cars, not far behind Ben Short, and he's not there. So Jason Greatrex appears to have caused a safety car here by going off through the exit of the Hall Bends. And in fact, the red flag is now being shown, so they're not going to get the race restarted. That is a shame, because the safety car could have really generated some excitement on the restart. But our first A race of the weekend ending a little bit early then because of an off for Jason Greatrex at the Hall Bends. And the result, therefore, is as follows, with Will Blackwell Chambers taking another race victory. That's his second of the year. Brian Trott second, John Langridge third, Steve Foden fourth, and Joe Wiggin back in the top 5 in 5th position. Then Will Hayden, Ben Short, Martin Tolley, Matt Luff and Ben Hansey to round out the top 10. Greatrex and Cannon, as the 2 non-finishers, will be demoted onto the B grid, along with Ivan Leary, Nick Ledoyen and Richard Baxter. They will start at the front end, therefore, of the race 2B grid.
Got a good start, managed to put a little bit of a gap, made a couple of mistakes, the gap started dropping down, kind of luckily the safety car came out and we finished on the safety car. So good result, would have been nice to have a fight to the end, but can't complain with a win.
Brian, safety car finish, which no one really likes, but you've come away with second place. How does that help you for tomorrow?
Well, obviously P2, I started P3 on the grid and I did get a little bit of damage off the start line. It was a bit of a melee there. It did bend the track in and the car wasn't handling as sweetly as I liked. I still managed to pass John, got up to Will and sat there, and I was ready to make a move when the red flags came out.
John, safety car finish, but tough racing out there with both Brian and Will. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it was just boiling up nicely, actually. It's a bit of a shame it was a safety car from 10 minutes in and then eventually a red flag. But I started second and got away well, and Brian was coming through quickly, so I thought, well, that's fine. We'll have some fun later. And then there was some coolant down at the hairpin. I slid on that and dropped a bit of time, but not as bad as some other people behind, it seems, because the barriers needed repairing. So a bit of a frustrating race for everybody.
Race 2A is about to get underway and we have a full grid, and as you can see, everyone already in the assembly area. The sun has actually come out to play today, and speaking of coming out to play, Will, back in pole position. Now, this is a circuit you would like, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we had a tough time here last year. We had a little coming together with John, had a bit of a spin, which took away a race win. But other than that, it's been a good circuit to me over the years. I've had a couple of fastest laps here, a couple of wins, so I'm liking it so far.
Well, you obviously won yesterday, so you must be doing something right.
The car's pretty fantastic. After I managed to blow up an engine at Pembrey in the last race, it's done a fantastic job getting an engine back together that's working quite nicely. So, yeah, really happy with how it's going, and we'll see what we can do in the next 2.
Brilliant. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you. Right, we're going to hand it straight over to Andy to run you through all of the action.
Thanks, Lindsay. Well, that win means that Will Blackwell Chambers has taken a couple of points now out of championship leader John Langridge as well, and it also means he's on pole position for race 2 ahead of Brian Trott, then Langridge third with Steve Foden alongside, Joe Wiggin, Will Hayden, Ben Short and Martin Tolley are next, whilst Matt Luff and Ben Hansey round out the top 10. Now, because this is our second A race of the weekend, that means we've had our first B race, and the top 5 finishers from that race are on the back of this grid. Adam Bessel, our first B winner of the weekend, and he has brought Sam Smith, Bryn Griffiths, Richard Wotton and Jack Moody through with him onto the back of the A grid. Bright and sunny conditions here then, a world away from the overcast and chilly weather we had yesterday for race 1. Race 2 is about to get underway then. Can Brian Trott get another victory? Can Will Blackwell Chambers take his 3rd of the season? Let's find out. Lights out, away we go. The rush towards turn 1 was frenetic in race 1. It's equally so in race 2, with 1 or 2 cars taken to the grass further back there to try and make progress. On board with John Langridge, looking back at the very fast started Joe Wiggin. He started 5th and he's gained ground here off the line, most definitely. Through the first couple of corners we go, through this double apex right-hander at Charlie's. Blackwell Chambers leads, Trott 2nd, Langridge 3rd. Wiggin is up a position into 4th at the expense of Steve Foden, who's down to 5th. Ben Short, I think, has maintained his 7th place starting position. And behind, that's Seb Fisher giving the bump draft to Ben Hansey on the inside of Matt Luff towards Park Corner. Luff, the purple bumpered car on the outside line, could be about to lose out here. Onto the brakes for the first time, really, in this opening lap of the second race of the weekend. Everybody cleanly through the first few quarters this time. Then Bryn Griffiths there at the back of the grid in car number 31. Having another strong showing, having starred last time out at Pembrey, albeit in the B races, but he's
Will, congratulations on coming pole again. How was the race? Because I know Brian just pegged you for a little bit of it.
I decided to miss a gear coming out the corner, which then got dirt on my tyres and then slid through the final corner onto the pit straight. So Brian did a fantastic move around the outside, very brave but very, very nicely driven. and we just about got through there, and I didn't think I was going to get back in front, to be honest. He defended fantastically. It was really difficult to even get a look in, but sadly at the bottom of Mansfield he decided that his favourite gear was neutral, so we got back past.
John, close racing there, particularly sitting behind Will and Brian, and you came through into second. Looked like Brian had a bit of a problem.
Yeah, I mean, Brian pulled off an incredible manoeuvre around the outside of turn 1 to take the lead, and it was really impressive, I have to say. And then he must have had a problem at Mansfield because he had a box neutrals or something, and Will and I he just gave it to us, unfortunately, but for him. You know, the fresh cold car prepared by Blink was so good that I was able to stick with these guys because I don't think we're quite as quick yet, but we've got another chance later on to rectify that.
It's the final A race here at Cadwell Park in the BRSCC Mazda MX-5 Championship. And what a great turnout we've got on the grid. But Lindsay, really, all of the action this weekend has been focusing on 3 cars.
It has indeed, Lloyd. So as you can see, we've got Will Blackwell-Chambers in pole position, followed very closely by someone that is definitely wanting to get the top spot, which is John Langridge. And then again, Brian Trott right behind him. Now, Brian has been on the ball. He managed to pip Will in the second race, but due to missing a gear, unfortunately, he did drop down to 3rd position. So can he still manage to get past it? He obviously knows where the overtaking spots are. It's a bit of a gem around here at Cadwell. So I'm going to hand it straight over to Andy to run you through all of the action.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsay. Well, Brian knows he's got the pace to win, I guess. He just needs to execute that now, doesn't he? And he's starting from 3rd on the grid, so some more overtaking to be done. Blackwell-Chambers and Langridge row 1 with Trott and Steve Foden row 2. Ben Short and Joe Wiggin are on row 3 with Ollie Allwood. And Sam Smith, runner-up in the championship last year. He's back for a one-off appearance only this weekend, and he's inside the top 10 finally for the first time, having had some issues in qualifying yesterday. His brother Tom Smith is back on this grid as well, a little bit further down the order, 15th for him, plus those that got promoted. Lewis Cannon, our race 2B winner, will start 22nd on the grid. Jason Craytrex has been promoted as well, so he's back on the A grid for this, the final race of the weekend. Away we go, Blackwell-Chambers and Langridge from row 1, and John Langridge with a good start this time around from 2nd on the grid. He's on the outside line down towards the first corner, but I reckon that John might just be able to get through ahead of Will Blackwell-Chambers. On board with Martin Tolley in the pack. There's a car off already to the right hand side, and that was someone from within the top 10, didn't quite see who. And more drama there on the left hand side of the road. There are cars off. Oh, contact! Someone spins in the middle of the road and Martin Tolley has nowhere to go. Now, who was that? I've got a feeling that Ben Short has been involved in that. Yes, that's Ben Short. That's Ben Short off the road. That is huge drama for another of our championship contenders for the 2nd time this weekend. Ben Short has been involved in contact at the first corner, but this time it looks like it might be terminal and he may be out of the race. So real excitement, but unfortunately real misfortune for a few of our potential front runners. We'll try and pick out who else has gone missing on the opening lap. Ben Short and Martin Tolley definitely involved, but there were other cars that were pointing the wrong way off the road and receiving contact, and that therefore may not be able to continue. Right, down the hill we go then. The top 3 from both of our first 2 races have been able to escape at the head of the field then, with Langridge leading the way, Blackwell-Chambers 2nd and Brian Trott in 3rd. The question will be who remains behind, but they're so far back the rest of the field because of that early skirmish at the first corner. It's actually hard to tell exactly who is there in 4th position. There's Jason Craytrex, as I said, he's been promoted back onto the A grid now after his race 1 non-finish. And Joe Wiggin must have been involved too, because there the purple and black car, number 41, is right down the order, the McIntyre racing car, so he was another that was off the road somewhere on the opening lap, and is now trying to salvage whatever he can from this final race of the weekend. But the big news, I guess, really, is that Ben Short, 3rd in the championship, is out, or potentially, yes, it does look like he's out of the race. I don't think he's continued, so Ben, whose worst finishes coming into this weekend, well, 2 of them have already happened this weekend. His 5th place in race 2, his 7th place in race 1, and prior to that he was dropping a 4th place finish. This will now, though, seriously change the championship standings. It won't work out too badly for him at the moment, because this will become a drop score, but it adds the pressure on for the rest of the season. Back to the battling meanwhile then, with 54 there going through is Marcus Bailey. Just ahead of him, Adam Craig is dicing away with Tom Smith, the younger brother of Sam Smith. Langridge, though, twice a winner already this season, both of those races coming at Pembrey last time out. Had a 2nd place at Brands Hatch as well, before that contact between himself and Will Blackwell Chambers in race 2 put him out of the race, and that meant that the best he could salvage out of race 3 was a B race victory. Langridge, though, is your points leader on dropped scores. He came into this race 6 points clear of Will Blackwell Chambers. Neither of them have the fastest lap, though. Matt Luff in 4th place. Look, he's been able to catch them, but he's just going to run out of time to do anything about them. And he has set the fastest lap. So Matt Luff, for the first time, I think, this year, will come away from a race with the fastest lap. Langridge, though, through the final couple of corners, well, he's not going to have a huge margin of victory, but it will be a victory by the looks of it for the 3rd time in 2019. John Langridge is going to extend his championship lead because he sees the checkered flag first, he punches the air with delight, and John Langridge is a 3-time winner in the 2019 Mazda MX-5 Championship. Brian Trott will come home in 2nd place, and Will Blackwell Chambers rounds out the podium, finishes Matt Luff a great drive to 4th, and likewise Jack Brewer in 5th, Lewis Cannon is 6th, whilst a 5-second track limits penalty drops Sam Smith down to 8th position. Look, behind Adam Craig, Ollie Allwood and Tom Smith round out the top 10, and there you see confirmation Ben Short and Martin Tolley both out of the race, and that will become, no doubt, a drop score for Ben Short, but that is not an ideal weekend. 3 races to forget, unfortunately, for the man who was leading the championship.
John, what a way to end the weekend with a victory, but close racing again between all 3 of you.
Yeah, it was really tight that time. I got a really great start, smashing start, and managed to edge into the lead. I looked behind me and it must have been something happened at the first corner, because suddenly the 3 of us, or maybe 4 of us, were a long way ahead already. And I kind of knew from the previous races I wasn't quite as quick as the other boys this weekend, but we made a change to the car which was working really nicely, but not quite well enough to keep them back. So I thought, just got to defend this time.
Brian, quickly talk me through that race.
That was a tight race. Just off the start, I managed to miss the carnage. 2nd time this weekend's not great, but I came out in P3 there, looked at my mirrors, and there was not really much else. I think Matt Luff was there. So the 4 of us got away. John started defending early, and obviously I was behind Will, so I just sent it down the outside a couple of times. It didn't work the first time. I nearly threw it off. But I tried the same manoeuvre the next lap, got into 2nd, and then I was just pressuring John all the way.
Well, your 3rd podium of the weekend, but you were really hoping for 3 wins.
It would have been nice. I missed out on an opportunity on the first lap. I messed up the start. John got past me, and then I had an opportunity to get past him, and I didn't take it. I don't quite know why, but it was a mistake that shouldn't have happened. And then from that on in, John was holding me up quite a lot, and Brian managed to do a really good move around the outside. And then I couldn't do the same to him because there was no space. So it was kind of a bit of a boring 3rd place. So I was very much hoping the front 2 might take each other out, but it didn't happen. But no, happy with the weekend. We've had a tough start to the year, so just to finish 3 races and bring home 3 podiums is a really good result.